I'm Nasima. Hi.
And that's it, and that's all you need to know.
Pretty much. I just write things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I'm a poet. I
Mm-hmm.
produce things. I also do some acting, all rounder. So I call myself an artist, but really I think I'm a black artist because whatever you'll pay me for, I'll do it.
But there's an artistry in that as well. I'll
You
tell
get
you.
me?
I'll tell
It's
we're as English graduates, we'll tell you there's an artistry in blacking. For people who obviously like aren't aware of your work or haven't come across you before, which to be honest, if you're living in Manchester and you are vaguely familiar with the art scene, you probably will have. But can you tell people more specifically about the kind of work that you do, the type of work that you do?
yeah. So for me, I'd say probably my biggest audience is Muslim women.
Yeah, come on.
However, I just write for myself. I
Mm-hmm.
always say I'm not anybody's role model. I don't try and be anything other than just say what I feel.
Mm-hmm.
And really, like it's as it sounds so cliche, but it's as authentic as that.
Mm-hmm.
I try to just write from a point of just from a point of like understanding. For me, writing is me trying to dismantle and understand things, me trying to break things down, and really like have conversations about things that I care about, whether that's something that's happening personally in my life
Mm-hmm.
or something that's happening in our community locally, or something that's happening like far beyond and a little bit more globally.
Mm-hmm. That's
Mm.
interesting because you're saying like, oh, I don't have any kind of concerted objective. I just write about what touches me. And yet, as someone who's kind of like seen your work and read your work, a lot of it is very political. So it's very interesting then how, as like a Muslim woman, it's your existence, your identity is just inherently political, right? Like kind of not concertedly going into that, but also then unwittingly ending up there.
Absolutely agree. You know what? I once described myself as a political being
Mm,
without choice.
yeah.
Unfortunately, there's no off switch on being a Muslim woman and not being
Mm-hmm.
political because just by the makeup of what you look like, whether you're presenting as a Muslim woman visibly or not, you're
Mm-hmm.
political because of what's
Mm-hmm.
happening
Mm-hmm.
across the globe, because of, what we've grown up with from my very early like primary school years up until me as a big woman now, and I'm not going to say my age. um but yeah, it's a bit wild when you think about it like that, but when you think about it like that, it's such a pressurized thing when you go on in society and you just exist as yourself because you're trying to hold up facets of everything else. And really, like, I think I've learned over the years to just try to accept that you can't please everyone.
Mm-hmm.
You're just yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and you're nobody's role model other than the person you want to be, and try and be that you're trying to be yourself.
Yeah, that's another thing as well because it's like even if we're not, as I said, concertedly but more unwittingly kind of presenting political ideals and stuff, then what the difficulty is, then you become a representative of that, and society can't see you as anything but a representative of that. Like I feel like any time, especially like an ethnic person or a Muslim person starts talking about identity politics or politics at large, they get very much pigeonholed into that box. And we, like on this show, because obviously we are a South Asian show and we speak a lot about South Asia, we said that an important part of reclaiming ourselves as like South Asian beings in kind of the British like landscape is actually also talking about nonsense and talking about things that don't necessarily relate to being Muslim, to being South Asian, just cute girly things. Like,
Oh, mate, absolutely. Because guess what? I'm not just a Muslim woman. I'm also Bengali. I'm also very Mancunian.
yeah.
I'm also very English.
Mm-hmm.
I'm probably more English than I am Bengali. I'd say
Oh
that.
really?
Um,
Okay.
yeah, which is probably not a comfortable thing to say live on air with the Tory government.
No,
But
but
we're
you know
not.
yourself.
But yeah, like you're everything. You're everything, and you're as much as you accept yourself to be in all of these facets. Like,
Yeah,
I think
without
it.
being pigeonholed, right? Like you
Yeah, I
can be
think
all
it.
of those things and not be specifically just those things either.
Absolutely. I think it becomes a problem when you feel pigeonholed and when people are pigeonholing you. But I think you have the agency to change that. And, just like you just said, you started the show wanting to talk about, South Asian culture, but then also just South Asian culture is also just the nuance in the nuances in that. Like there's,
Sometimes you might want to talk about Drake, and we
exactly
will.
that. Yeah, why not?
And we will. That's what it means to also be a South Asian person, you know? Like, as you said, there's so many different facets to that. But a little bit more questions about your work. How did you get into it? How have you ended up here?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
If I had a penny for every time someone asked me that, let me tell you, I wouldn't be an artist.
Oh, really? Oh, damn. Well, we want to know. We want to know.
So I've always been writing. I've been writing ever since I was little. Like, if my family, always bringing the dramatics, always trying to put on a show, always a little entertainer. And I think it sort of got serious probably in my teens when I was a little bit more sort of curious about what was going on in the outer world, aside from like struggling with my own identity as a British Muslim Bengali woman who's grown up in the UK, but also like what was going on away from me growing up, but to people that looked like me. And I think like nobody at the time, like when I was growing up in my early teens, no one was really talking about things like Palestine. Nobody was talking about what was going on, sort of like nobody was talking about anything that was relevant to me. I didn't see myself reflected in
the art space.
And I think like I just started writing and sharing some work on like a personal blog, which then became a little bit bigger when I started doing little charity gigs. And then when I did my undergrad in creative writing and English literature, which was very overwhelming, because as you can imagine with an English degree what that curriculum looks like. But I very much enjoyed my degree. It really sort of taught me how to write, like really write in terms of form, in terms of storytelling, in terms of things making a little bit more sense than just talking about a certain issue. And then when I was in my final year at uni, I did this we had to do this module called Writers at Work, and when I was doing it, all of my like classmates, they were all going to like publishing houses and things that just seemed really, like, for me, really boring. Like,
that is kind of what typically people with English backgrounds end up going into.
Absolutely. And I was just like, I'm not going to sit and make cups of tea for
do a photocopy for next man. Yeah.
Absolutely not. I just found the idea so boring. And because I had previously performed here and there, I did this spoken word slam when I was in college.
Oh, wow.
And the organisation that ran this spoken word slam at uni, one of my tutors kept referring to them and saying, you know what, you're a performance poet. I think you should like get in touch with this collective. And I had no interest of continuing like performing or writing. It's just something that I did as a pastime. I never knew I could get paid for it. If that made sense.
Actually make a living out of that.
And my tutor kept saying, yeah, get in touch with this collective, you know, they're really cool, blah, blah, blah. And little did she know I already knew the collective.
You'd already been doing
so I sort of got in touch and I said, can I just come and work for you for free?
Oh wow, okay.
For my module. And I started working for them and I'm now one of their trustees.
Oh my god, come on. Come on, for those of you who can't see, I'm pulling gun fingers right now, full circle. Come on. I love that. That's amazing. But wait, what happened in between? How did you go from little intern running around after them to now?
So when I was working with them, I started learning so I was doing a lot of facilitating. They thought, okay, she's doing an undergrad, she can just facilitate all these spoken word, like all these poetry workshops. I had never taught a day in my life. I had never done any workshops in my life. So I just pretended with the soul of me that I had done this. I hadn't done it. This is what I mean about black artist, because I had to make myself look sick in it. So I just when I started doing these workshops, there was more opportunities sort of being sort of pushed my way. So things like producing, things like marketing, learning about what it means to work in the arts, from selling tickets to like marketing to producing a show to working and liaising with artists, just learning everything.
It's more than just standing on a stage and like reading a poem.
Absolutely. Learning how a theatre runs, so really like widening like my skill set as an artist, widening my skill set as a person who works in the arts, and then like just really alhamdulillah, like really amazing development opportunities and sort of opportunities to travel like globally.
That's
and
incredible.
Just amazing things. So I've performed in quite a few places aside from the UK, and that's really exciting for me because from someone who, like, as you can see, like I never saw myself reflected in the art space. Not that I wanted representation, because that's another conversation. Especially in this day and age, I think I just never saw like the things that I wanted to talk about, the things that were important to me, or the things that mattered to me being spoken about in the arts world or just in the world in media. And so I wanted to change that. And now I get to do that sort of not just in little old Manchester, which is so cool.
That's so sick. That's so sick. We'd love to see it. We'd love to hear it. But obviously it was a very colourful journey. And like, mashallah, very continuing, and it's successful. But what were the difficulties that you faced along the way? Because obviously, because we're both Bengali Muslim Mancunians, and I know that it's not always easy, kind of, especially as a woman, to go into the creative art space. You know, like you kind of get to a certain age, and there's that difficulty of a woman pursuing a career anyway. You know, because there's expectations of marriage and homekeeping and things like that. And then on top of that, it's like they make exceptions, but exceptions for kind of typical accepted careers, right? Like in our community, and that obviously that it's a double-edged sword, because it's like that's why the work that you do is so much more important, because we need to create a space where Bengali, you know, young Bengali Muslims, both, you know, male and female, feel comfortable pursuing the arts and those things. But there just wasn't a space, right? So I can kind of hazard that doing it, there was a lot of side eyes, a lot of what are you doing, like what's going on here.
I'm really lucky because I grew up in a family that weren't massively cultural, so there wasn't really any sort of, in terms of that, I mean, like, do you know how like in our community sometimes like, oh yeah, like look what she's doing, and you know, people talk and all of that. Like my family just weren't involved with.
I'm just quietly nodding my head, by the way, guys. I know. Yes,
my family, my mum and dad were just not for that kind of community.
Oh, I love that.
So growing up, I never really grew up around Bengalis. I mean, I went to a private Islamic school. So the first time you met me was when I was around in college. Yeah, so
you just fresh home.
Those were my first Bengali friends.
Oh my god! Yeah. Oh yeah, for those of you who don't know, Nasima is like very good friends with my cousin, and that's how I know her. But oh wow, okay,
I never really grew up around like Bengalis, and also I think I'm the youngest of 7, so I think right,
you just get to do whatever you want then.
Yeah. Oh. I think when it came to me, but my parents just gave up. Like they were like, "Okay, let her do whatever she wants." Like everybody else is.
Yeah.
Nobody cares about the youngest.
Yeah, it's no. I'm pulling screw face because I'm the oldest out of 4 siblings, and I'm always going on about how this little one. Oh my god! Like I call her an orphan. I literally call her an orphan because it's like, where are your parents? You're out here doing this. You're out here doing that. Where are your parents? So okay,
you sound like my older siblings. You sound like my older siblings.
I feel like every Bengali older sister is just factory made. I feel like we would have had the exact same experiences. Justice for Bengali older sisters. But anyways, it's not about me, unfortunately.
Can't relate.
Yeah, you can't, and I can't relate to you. So,
but actually, like, I think also I'm very rebellious and curious. Like, if something doesn't make sense to me, I'll question it, and
like my little sister. I was saying to my mum the other day, like, she has so much sufa. Like everything. I'm like, I didn't even have the courage to look my dad in the eye when he was like, you know, going off on one, and you're just there like, I'm like, wow.
Yeah, literally me. Wow. Honest to God, is that me? Oh God, it's so embarrassing.
I feel like younger siblings have a very strong sense of justice, right? And I think it comes from a certain entitlement, which isn't a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. Whereas like the older ones were taught to just kind of sit down, put your head down, obey, blah blah blah. But it's probably what's led you and like lended you to what you do and the kind of writing that you have. Okay, so you didn't personally feel that resistance, but Is that something that you were cognizant of when you were kind of in the process of trying to carve out those space? Like, was it kind of like, okay, do you know what, Bengalis, and it's very funny because we are traditionally, like, Bengali culture is very artistic, right? It's very poetic. Like, we're literally known for our poetry. And yet,
we fought for our tongue. Like, we literally fought for our language.
Right. Literally, the first Asian Nobel laureate was a Bengali man. But then you come kind of here, like, to the diaspora, particularly in a place like Longsight, which is in and around where Nasima and I grew up, and it just doesn't exist. So was that, despite you not personally being able to relate in your own family, was that something that you were cognizant of and, like, kind of like, okay, you know what, I want to do this for, like, other Bengali children who maybe have artistic flares but aren't able to pursue it?
I think 1,000%. Like I said at the start, I'm nobody's role model. I don't try and say that I'm doing this for anybody else other than me wanting to. Like, all I want to do is tell stories.
Yeah.
Want people to listen and then have conversations about them so that the world can be a better place. I never really see myself as a role model for anybody other than me writing these stories, telling these stories, and having conversations to make the world a better place. And whatever, it sounds like such a far reach, but really, well and truly, like, I never really faced any sort of, like, anyone holding me back in the community or my parents or anyone questioning it within South Asians. However, growing up in the arts world, it has been a bit of a storm, I'd say, because you're constantly, at the start, I was just trying to fit in.
Yeah.
And probably doing things and doing gigs that I probably wasn't comfortable with. And, like, I was constantly, like, being picked to do things that basically just being tokenized. When I was
That's what it is, yeah.
When I was being picked, it was to be like, it wasn't really because she stands out because she's great and she's a brilliant writer and this is
filling a diversity quota.
Filling a gap, yeah. And I think it's things that I mean, we're fast learners growing up as South Asian Bengali Muslim women in this country, aren't we? So I just sort of, like, okay, took it on the chin, really focused on the things that I wanted out of it. And sometimes tokenization isn't so bad, I've learned. Sometimes, like, being tokenized, you get to win in those conversations. You get to be the one who dictates what happens and who dictates, like, how you you get to dictate it. Nobody can take that from you. So I think I just learned how to navigate that, and I think another thing that I will say, like, those who were one of the biggest things that I think about a lot, and I talk to other friends of mine who are artists, is that those who came before me, like other Muslim South Asian artists, they set a standard, and sometimes that standard, because, like, it's such a big nuance. Those that came before me set a standard, and I think people's expectations was that I would just fit into those standards rather than make my own. Like, just like, for example, like, I don't have any problem to get up and say that I want to break a rehearsal space because I need to go and pray. Whereas that is not people.
Yeah.
I don't have any problem being my full authentic self as a Muslim woman now. Whereas before that, I mean, and sometimes it's a bit jarring.
Yeah.
So I found it difficult to navigate that aspect of things. Does that make sense?
No, I can imagine, because it's kind of like, it's not, you know, like, kind of breaking into a space, and like, the art space is very kind of overwhelmingly white, right? So to break into a space, it's not as though, it's not a one-stop job. It's not like okay, we've broken it and that's it. It comes in phases, and you have to, it's a process, and you have to have wins along the way. So, like, I can understand how maybe perhaps the people that came before you, for them, the big win was just getting in. And then they were just kind of very quiet, and they just didn't want to stir too much. They didn't want to kind of draw too much attention. Whereas now you're in a place where it's like, actually, no, I'm in and I deserve to be here, and I'll take up the space and I'll do it in my way, and in a way that accommodates me, you know, rather than just kind of, because I get that sense from a lot of South Asian people, or, like, just, you know, ethnic people who end up in whatever overwhelmingly white industry. There's this sense that they should be grateful to just even be there, right? Like, as though they haven't earned that space, as though they're not there from their own merit. There's this sense that, like, it has been bestowed upon them kindly, rather than the fact that they have earned to be in that space. And I guess that's where kind of, like, feelings of imposter syndrome come from and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, I agree, but that's just it. Like, I mean, we all got there by merit as well. Yeah, there's a level of tokenization, there's a level of, fitting that box. But I do believe like I mean, again, it sounds really corny and I hate saying it out loud and a little bit cliche, but I really believe like being an artist and what I do is it fulfills my purpose as a Muslim.
100%.
And
Yeah.
like me writing poems, as stupid as it sounds, like those conversations might be the small change that we need in whether it's a local thing, whether it's changing someone's perspective on like, just on a personal level. Like a lot of the time people come to me and so even sometimes like when I'm writing from my perspective, sometimes obviously as writers we really like flower things up and make it make it better. Sometimes it's not my experience, but sometimes when it is my experience and people come up to me and they're just like, oh my god, like I really related to this because X, Y, and Z, and it really made me do something because X, Y, and Z. Like, man, I live for that.
100%. Like you can't understate the power of resonance and like of the power of being able to, your gift is to write, right, is to articulate. Your gift is of articulation, and you cannot understate and underestimate the power of being able to articulate someone else's experiences, someone else's lived experiences, especially someone who belongs to an identity that is typically suppressed, and they feel that they don't have avenues or that they're not able to read something, to hear something that encapsulates how they feel and what they've experienced. It's a liberation. It's not just like oh my god, yeah, I really get it, I understand. It's a revelation. It's a liberation for a lot of people who have typically felt those things and had no avenue of getting that out. And more to kind of when you're sat here and you're being like, oh, tokenization, well, and black artists, but not really, because like if that was the case, then we'd all do it. Like we could all just go on blag, like as I say, there is a talent and an art and an artistry in being flexible and adaptable and being able to kind of do all of those things. I want to, because we're slightly running out of time, but I want to hear a little bit more about like the theatre work that you are involved in. Yeah,
so I do a little bit of acting here and there.
Okay. How'd you get into doing that?
I don't know. Everything just happened really accidentally, I told you. I don't sign up for it. I just find myself in spaces and I really like, me, I'm very much... if there's something I haven't, especially in the arts world, I'm comfortable enough to say I don't know how to do something.
Yeah.
And I'm not good at it. So like with acting, I think it sort of began because I wasn't the best performer. I don't think I was the best performer in my very early years.
Okay.
And I wanted to get better at connecting with people on a stage. So that's why I started doing little bits here and there. And I'm currently actually writing my first script, which is really exciting.
Fantastic. Can you tell us a little bit about that or no?
Yeah, I can. Okay. So it's not a fully blown script and it's going to be a theatre show, that kind of thing. It's not that yet, but the hopes is that it does become at some point in the future. But it's a research development on what it means to be a Muslim woman in the current climate of political Britain, and how, I know, it's just like
heavy.
It's just like I wanted to give myself the most difficult thing to do, right?
No, but important though. The difficult things are the important things.
Absolutely. So it sort of came about from personal experiences of trying to navigate like existing in this weird climate of a Tory government, having lived through 9/11, having lived all of these things, and like, and how, and also like, just personal experiences that I won't go into too much, but me, I think, finding myself apologizing for things that I'm not.
Yeah.
And I think as Muslims, we all sort of bear that on our shoulders a little bit, whether we want to or not, whether something happens and we're going out the next day, it's our mothers, our fathers who are calling us up to be safe.
Yeah, are you safe? Are you okay? Yeah. I mean, we speak all the time on this show about how like ardently and like enthusiastically Islamophobic this country and this government is.
Absolutely. So and I think really, I mean, the crux of it is at the time I sort of wrote this proposal for this piece of work, Boris Johnson there was this article on him saying all this stuff about, Muslim women are ninjas, we're
Letterboxes. Oh,
leftist,
that's
all of these
very
things.
imaginative.
And just never, ever taking the responsibility and the accountability of what that means for everyday me and you.
Mm-hmm.
How that, how do we exist in that climate? So yeah, that's what the this research piece is about. And it's really exciting because I'm getting to work with a director and dramaturg and
That's
an actor,
incredible.
and I'm not in it. I'm not
Oh,
actually
well, you can't wear all the hats all the time, Nasima. You got to give some
exactly,
space for other people. You can't do it all. But that's
exactly
incredible.
that.
That sounds amazing, amazing. Very quickly, just before we wrap up, because I know you've got a little present for us
A
before
little
we wrap up. What are you looking forward to in the future? So obviously you've got your play that you're writing. Inshallah, we get to see that on stage one day. What
I think
else?
honestly, for me, like the best part of being an artist is being in rooms with people and having conversations like just like this.
Yeah.
Honestly, like just connecting with people, my work meaning something
Mm-hmm.
and being a force for greater good. Again, it sounds
No,
cliche.
it's not. It's not. Claim it. That's what you're
Not
doing. That's
sizing
what your
it down. I
objective
know
is.
in a small way it is, and I
Yeah, of
think that's
course.
what's exciting to me.
Yeah, and not even in a small way. Like we again on this show, like we talk all the time about how there's the world, and there's 8 billion worlds,
Mm.
within the world. So don't understate that. But to wrap up, Nasima has very kindly offered to read us one of her poems. So
So, a really good intro because this poem is one of the poems written for this script. And like to
okay,
share.
We
I was
love a
actually
good
the first
segue.
yeah, it's the first poem that I've written in this script, so I thought I'd share that. And it's called "Take Back My Body." Iranian climber apologizes on Instagram for competing without hijab. Law against Islam. French vote in favor of hijab ban condemned. Students in Belgium protest for headscarf rights at university. Hijab ban proposal sparks debate and protests in Denmark. Violent clashes over hijab ban in southern India force schools to close. I am body, covered or uncovered. When naked, my limbs are a tangle, knotted in redemption, tied in resistance, a coil of revolution, breath, a symphony of exhaustion, existing as halves in harrowing whole, hearted in heavy syllable, faith, worn like armor, fierce, subversive, untouchable. Only the valiant are forever defined but denied explanation. Politicized for choosing right to wear or not to wear, assimilate or stand out, or stand down or speak loud, only speak when spoken to, stand up if you're speaking, never speak up for yourself. Is she spoken for? Does she speak? Does your husband force you to? Do you have to wear it at home too? Do you shower with it on? Objectified, vilified, disgusted by, often gagged by intolerant assumption, devout in disinterest. I'm tired of being the person of interest. I have lost count the times I process the grief of being misunderstood, misheard, unheard, not listened to, insulted by immoral compasses that pick and choose the direction of where to signal virtue. No more apologies for uninformed cliches, selective in when one is switched on long enough to care about oppression or one's opponents or the opposition. Optimistic for opportunities to be the white savior, wearing your liberation cape is seemingly harmless, yet failure to observe agency in any other instant does not result in silence. I am the too difficult to understand but uncaring to make myself intelligible. The subject matter excluded, intrigued by, appealing, mysterious, yet the fear of the unknown is never compelling enough to enlighten or let go. I am full letterbox brimming. I am ninja seething, and I am a bank robber, bored of backhanded compliments of being repressed, represented, or representative, or misrepresentation. No more palatable Muslim woman. Always image, never artist, bizarre and freakish. I am a stranger to you when I sit at your table. queuing at the same supermarket checkout lines, frustrated by traffic, drinking my frappuccino on my way to work, at the gallery or the museum or the cinema, when I'm at the park for a run, or when I'm asked at school why I'm covering my hair to determine my sexualization. In your gaze, by your gaze, I'm always the other, the alternative, and you're obsessed with how I dress. I am full fantasy and erotic and exotic, foreign but eloquent, a non native. I'm imported. I am not human. You do not have to humanize me.
I feel like that just very, very perfectly like encapsulated every like hijabi experience. That was incredible. That I'm going to sit with that for a very, very, very long time. Thank you so much for sharing that, especially obviously as part of a much wider body of work. We are going to have to wrap up now. We're running a little bit late, but thank you so, so, so much for coming on. For the people that want to find you, where can they find you?
So on Twitter, I'm at Nasima Bee, NASIMA and on Instagram at Nasima Bee Poet. I'm sure you guys just posted about me, so just go on Mango Masala. Follow
Yeah.
me, share my work. Follow Mango Masala if you're not already.
Yeah, come on, guys. Come on.